They don't disrespect you all at once. It doesn't arrive like a slap you can point to in front of everyone. It arrives like a drop. Today, an innocent joke. Tomorrow, a silence that stretches. The day after, a plan canceled without explanation. And by the end of the month, you find yourself justifying the unjustifiable. Respect usually doesn't break with screams. It erodes in whispers. And by the time you notice, you've already learned to live small so the world won't be uncomfortable with your real size. Before we continue, I'm genuinely curious to know from where in the world and at what time you're joining today. I'd love to read you in the comments. You're not crazy, or weak, or dramatic. You're tired of holding up bonds that don't hold you. And there is a solution, but it isn't solved with pretty phrases or empty threats. It's resolved with something much more intimate, returning to your center, articulating your truth, and training the most neglected muscle in an adult woman's emotional education. The boundary. Not the boundary that's shouted, the boundary that's lived. Let me start with a scene that may feel familiar. You're in front of the phone, the screen lit, rereading the last message you sent. Hours have passed. You know they read it. You know they posted stories. You know they were online. The silence pounds in your chest like an alarm. A part of you says, "It's fine, they're just busy." Another part, more honest, whispers, "They're training me to expect less." And you, who know the theory, catch yourself negotiating with yourself. I wrote too much. Maybe I scared them off. If I were more laid back, maybe I asked for too much. Does it ring a bell? You're not looking for an answer. You're looking for an excuse to stay. And each excuse you invent is a brick you remove from the house of respect. Why do you stay? Not because you don't know. You do know. You could write the list of red flags with your eyes closed. You stay because the fear of losing feels more unbearable than the pain of staying poorly accompanied. You stay because you were told that being good is to understand, wait, yield, carry. Because you confuse empathy with self-abandonment. Because you confuse peace with resignation. Because sometimes scarcity dresses up as love and anxiety masquerades as passion. And when hunger speaks louder than dignity, respect becomes a bargaining chip. I want you to hear something calmly. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Fault points a finger and pins you to the ground. Responsibility places a hand on your shoulder and asks, "So what do we do with you now?" The important question is not why someone disrespected you, but why you started disrespecting yourself first. Because no one steals what you're not willing to protect. And self-respect is protected with daily habits so concrete they seem simple, telling the truth without embellishment, arriving on time to your own limits, stopping the explanations once you've decided, and learning to leave without a scene when the setting stops being worthy of you. The respect you receive is the world's interpretation of how you treat yourself. Don't get me wrong, there are people who will cross lines even if you're impeccable with yourself. But on average, people adapt to the height at which you hold yourself. If you crouch to fit in, everything that comes will be calibrated downward. If you hold yourself up, sooner or later, life filters. Sometimes it hurts, yes. But it isn't loss, it's order. Let's talk about the discrete ways you're disrespected without noticing. There's a very common form that seems trivial: selective delay. They respond when it suits them, disappear when the conversation turns real, reappear with a meme to rekindle the flame without commitment. That's not how I am with my phone. That's emotional. Economics. I give you just enough so you won't leave. Another form, the joke that ridicules something you care about. You laugh so you won't seem intense. You stay quiet so you won't ruin the plan. It's small, yes. But bonds are carved in the small. If there's no care in the micro, the macro is just decoration. And then there's the most elegant form of disrespect: unilateral investment. You care, you ask, you organize, you hold. The other person goes with the flow. Flow that rests on your back isn't freedom. It's an abuse of your energy. Adult love isn't a millimeter-perfect equation, but it does feel even. Both people can relax because both are putting weight in. If you're the only one pushing, in the long run, you're not in a relationship, you're public transport. Let's look at the root. Many of us women grew up with a silent instruction: be liked. To be liked, learn to read the room, intuit needs, anticipate. It's a beautiful skill, if it doesn't become your identity. When the value of being liked becomes more important than the value of being honest, you start editing yourself. And chronic self-editing is the most elegant definition of disrespecting yourself. Because every time you say yes when you don't want to, your body hears it. Every time you smile while your chest tightens, your body records it. Every time you tell yourself it's not a big deal when it is, you make yourself smaller. You don't notice it all at once. You notice it when you look in the mirror and feel your voice sounds distant in your own mouth. This is where the serious work comes in. It's not about becoming hard. It's not about learning empowered lines to drop in an argument. It's about restoring your relationship with your truth. Truth is the finest instrument you have. It doesn't wound when you strike it well. It arranges. Say the truth, briefly, concretely, and without drama. If something hurt you, name it once, and watch the response. If the response is defensiveness, mockery, or flipping the argument back onto you, note it in your reality notebook. Don't shout to convince, take notes to decide. Your mind can lie to itself, your body cannot. Start listening to it. The skin that tightens, the clenched jaw, the churning stomach, the wavering voice. The body doesn't opine, it reports. When someone tramples your limits, your physiology warns you before your reason does. If you were trained to silence those signals, I propose this. Each time you feel an apparently small discomfort, stop. Don't judge yourself. Ask yourself, gently, what is not being honored here? Don't overanalyze. Don't seek the perfect justification. Say it in few words. This doesn't sit well with me. Whoever loves you will come closer. Whoever uses you will ask you to be quiet. You might think, but if I speak, they'll leave me. And yes, sometimes they will. It's the truth many avoid. Setting limits can cost you bonds. But staying without limits will cost you something worse: the relationship with yourself. And the way you treat yourself is the only bond that accompanies you your whole life. There is no wedding, contract, child, or project that compensates for a sustained betrayal of your own voice. If you lose yourself so you won't lose the other, you've already lost everything. Let's also look at respect at work and in the family, because we tend to tolerate there what we wouldn't tolerate in a couple. The comment that belittles your idea in the meeting, the email that CCs you at the last minute so you can put out fires, the "you're so resourceful" that really means "put your body on the line for me." In the family, the version is different. The joke that infantilizes you, the "you've always been sensitive," the reproach for living your own life. You don't need a war to sort that out. You need kind clarity, repeated without losing form. Repeated clarity educates. Repeated drama exhausts. Repeated silence rots. Ask yourself where you first learned that your time is worth less. Maybe as a girl, when they asked you to be the good one. Maybe in adolescence, when you noticed being quiet was safer than being brilliant. Maybe in your first relationship, when you confused intensity with love. It's important to name the origin, not to stay there, but to understand why your current reactions are so automatic. You're not broken. You're programmed. And a program is rewritten with patience, repetition, and small but firm decisions. Sometimes, the most painful disrespect is the one you commit by not respecting your own plans. You promise yourself you'll get up earlier, move your body, eat better, work on that project that excites you, and you sabotage yourself because no one is waiting for me. And you're right. No one's coming to pick you up, because that's your job. I don't say it harshly. I say it because I have faith in you. When you wait for yourself, the world learns to wait for you. When you keep your word to yourself, the world learns to take you seriously. Your projects are not whims. They are the architecture of your adult identity. I want you to imagine a house now. Not huge, not perfect. A house of your own, livable, full of light. It has firm foundations and doors that close softly. Respect is the foundation. Boundaries are the doors. Tenderness is the air. What good is a beautiful facade if the floor creaks and anyone walks in without knocking? What good is an impeccable speech if your daily treatment of yourself is negligent? Your house isn't repaired by decorating. It's repaired from below and within. What does active respect look like, concretely? It shows up in your calendar. If someone asks for your time, you offer real options. You don't juggle at the expense of your rest. It shows up in your language. You avoid just, sorry for the bother. Maybe it's not important when it actually is. It shows up in your body. If you're forcing the smile, you stop. It shows up in your responses. If someone mocks what hurts you, you don't launch into a PowerPoint about your pain. You simply say, I don't play with that. And sometimes it shows up in your feet when you leave. Leaving isn't punishment, it's coherence. Technology has turned disrespect into an economy of scale. The breadcrumbing that leaves you crumbs, the ghosting that turns you into a ghost, the orbiting that keeps you in orbit so they don't lose you entirely. Don't fight it. Observe. Name it. And decide that your attention is not an infinite resource. To give attention is to give life. You're free to do it, but don't be surprised if you feel empty afterward. Attention is your most valuable asset. Invest it where there's emotional return. There will be those who say, if I set boundaries, I'll end up alone. The alone you imagine is the one from sad movies. Real solitude can be a workshop and a cradle. It's the space where you reconfigure your compass, reorder your emotional closet, discover what you like without an audience. It's not a desert. It's a house under renovation. And yes, sometimes there's silence. But that silence doesn't judge you. It's the first silence that listens to you. People who know how to respect will also appear. Not because they're perfect, but because they've done their work. With them, you won't have to justify the basics or teach what's obvious. With them, you'll feel something you may have forgotten. Rest. Respect feels like rest, not like excitement, not like euphoria, not like butterflies. Rest. Your nervous system downshifts. Your skin softens. Your mind stops making up stories. You're not waiting for something bad to happen. You stay, you breathe, you are. Not everything is romantic. Sometimes the greatest act of respect is with yourself, when you make a mistake. Adulthood isn't never failing. It's not abandoning yourself when you fail. You speak to yourself the way you would to someone you care about. You give yourself the chance to repair without humiliating yourself. You learn to apologize briefly and clearly, without theatrical self-flagellation. Forgiveness doesn't cancel the boundary, it dignifies it. And even so, there are lines whose crossing asks for distance, not speeches. Forgiving doesn't always mean reconciling. Acknowledging that is also respect. If you recognize yourself in these lines, I want to gift you one simple gesture for today. Not an endless list, just one gesture. Choose a small situation where you usually minimize yourself. It could be that friend who writes to dump their load and then disappears when you need them. It could be that relative who comments on your body at every meal. It could be that coworker who takes credit for your ideas. That will be your lab. When the scene happens, don't over-explain. Don't rehearse a defense. Try a short phrase that protects you. I'm not going into that topic. Not like that. If it's like that, I'm out. And then, don't fill the silence. Let the emptiness do its job. Respect needs space to resonate. If you fill it with words, you suffocate it. Maybe you'll shake. It's okay. The shaking isn't a sign of weakness. It's your body learning a new way to stand up. Remember this. The first time you choose yourself, it sounds like heartbreak to those who were used to a compliant version of you. They'll feel it as loss. You'll feel it as guilt. But guilt, in these cases, isn't ethics. It's habit. Guilt will pass. Dignity will stay. I want to touch a delicate mirror. Sometimes you lower the bar because you're afraid of becoming demanding. They sold you the idea that being easy will make you lovable. They lied. Respect isn't a luxury or an eccentricity. It's the ground where something beautiful can grow. Cheap love turns out expensive. What's costly in time is cheap in the long run. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about emotional cost. Every time you accept crumbs, your soul pays the difference. And there are no low-interest loans when the currency is your self-esteem. There's another hidden reason you stay where you're not respected, the hope of becoming their exception. The day they treat you well, you light up the room. The day they treat you badly, you tell yourself it was a bad moment. It's emotional lottery. It's addictive because it promises the jackpot if you hold on. The statistics are cruel. Those who use intermittence as a method don't change because you keep holding. They change if they decide to work on themselves. You're not a rehab program, you're a person. You deserve bonds that don't ask you to become a nurse for their lack of awareness. I don't want you to leave here with an inflamed speech. I want you to leave with tools. So here's an intimate practice for this week. Each night, sit with yourself for 5 minutes. No music, no screen. Ask yourself 3 things and answer in 1 sentence per question. Where did I disrespect myself today? Where did I honor my voice? What small gesture will I make tomorrow to be a millimeter closer to myself? Write without poetry, without excuses. Read it softly out loud. Don't share it with anyone until this feels like bone. Intimacy with yourself is the gym of respect. When you've gained strength, the world will notice. Not because you shout, but because you no longer bend. And if right now you're in a relationship where respect is an occasional visitor, you might ask how to leave without breaking yourself. There isn't a one-size-fits-all route, but there is a common ethic. Decide in cool, act in clear, and care in tender. Deciding in cool is not making resolutions at emotional peaks. Jot things down, observe the pattern, choose a day that isn't an anniversary of anything. Acting in clear is not using punishments. Don't vanish overnight if there's no real risk. Say what's necessary, without cruelty. Without promises of, let's see if you change and I'll come back. Caring in tender is not filling the emptiness with noise, not calling the person you knew you shouldn't, not instrumentalizing anyone to numb yourself. Grieving for dignity hurts, yes, but every tear born of caring for yourself waters your ground for what's to come. You'll be surprised by a beautiful phenomenon. When respect becomes your language, life starts speaking to you in that tongue. Jobs appear where you're not the one who fixes everything, but the one who contributes what is yours without burning out. Friendships appear where you can stay quiet without feeling the need to entertain. Loves appear that don't turn you into a reduced, suitable for all audiences version, but celebrate the whole woman you are, with history, with nuance, with a spine that isn't for rent, and a heart that isn't given away without a care contract. I can't promise everything will be easy. I can promise it will be true. And what's true, even when it sometimes hurts, holds you. False peace, the kind you buy with silences and concessions, always ends up billing you in the form of anxiety, insomnia, nameless sadness. Real peace may include uncomfortable conversations, decisions others won't understand, seasons of solitude, but it leaves your house in order. And when the house is in order, the love that knocks no longer comes in to improvise, it comes in to live. Let me close with an image. Imagine yourself standing in the middle of an empty room. There's no noise, no audience, no mirror. It's just you and your voice. You say your name out loud. Then you whisper the things you no longer negotiate, the tone people use to speak to you, the space you save for yourself in your calendar, the clarity with which you say goodbye when needed, the loyalty to yourself when you make mistakes, the laughter you allow, the tiredness you tend to. And in that room, alone but accompanied by yourself, you swear you won't betray yourself again out of fear of being alone. Because you're no longer alone, you've got you. If any of this moved you, don't pressure yourself to fix your life in a day. Start with one gesture, then another. Dignity is a language learned by practicing it. At first you stutter. With time, you become fluent. And when you finally speak it naturally, the world answers you in the same tone. Not because it's magical, but because you became your own standard. Thank you for staying to the end. I read you, and I honor you. Today you chose yourself for a few minutes. Now it's your turn to choose yourself in the small things, in the everyday, in what doesn't make it to social media. That's where respect becomes life.